Yeah, welcome friends. Again, I'm with Mr. Ramanna, and in last two sessions, he has dealt with two traits of management, successful management managers or management traits. One was the first was one was focus, and the second one and the first one was simplicity, and the second one was focus. You have to focus one at a time, sort of a thing, which he explained with very interesting examples. So now, what you have, welcome, Mr. Ramana. What you have got today in your pocket?
Yeah, good morning, Sunil, and thank you for having me once more. I guess today we will cover one more topic after simplicity and focus. Not necessarily in the sequence of importance, but today we'll cover one more thought which was going through my mind, which with respect to having a big picture. Okay, what I mean is that, see, I think the purpose of any organization is to have sustained wealth creation for the shareholders and the stakeholders.
Yeah.
Each word of this is quite important because we are talking about sustain means it's not 1 quarter, 1 year, but it's long term. And wealth creation in terms of creating profit, return to the shareholders, reinvestment of the money which is generated for the long-term purposes, right? And it is to all the stakeholders, which also therefore means that it will include society around, employees, other vendors, apart from the owners or the shareholders of the company. So I have seen that those people who have been successful have this in mind, right, through whenever they do take decisions and review decisions also over a period of time. Like last time, I'll try to give a couple of examples at a business or operating head level. And then we go to the next level of actual operating manager, give some couple of examples to make the point. And since I go with my experience, and this is going back to 1984, in my first company, Bajaj Tempo.
Back to Bajaj Tempo.
Back to Bajaj Tempo Limited, yeah. So I think around that time, the company has decided that you set up a plant in Indore, in Pithampur, and it was for that time new product called Tempo Traveler. It was to have a modern state-of-the-art technology plant, great paint shops, conveyorized assemblies, much bigger and higher level than what we had in Pune at that time. And Pune was continuing to do the Matador and other products there, three-wheelers and all that. And Pithampur was to do only Tempo Travelers. And when the project was conceived, we had a phased manufacturing program, and therefore initially you will import kits, and then subsequently you will do indigenous development and bring the vehicle to the road. So when the project was originally conceived, the Deutschmark, which is the German currency, India is equivalent to 4 rupees per Deutschmark.
Yeah.
But in 2-3 years' time, for various reasons, that has become something like 12 rupees per Deutschmark.
So 2 rupees has gone to 12 rupees.
4 to 12 rupees.
4 to 12 rupees.
So suddenly that particular plant, the project, which would have been sustainable with only Tempo Traveler, with that phased manufacturing program that we had, including importing a lot of kits, was suddenly becoming unsustainable, unviable, right? Despite all that thought we had at that point of time, that we are sitting in this plant next to Kinetic Honda, which is a Japanese manufacturing practices. There are a lot of good practices that time the companies have brought in, and we wanted to have this plant in line with that. And for some reason, most of us thought that Matador is not in that, in that league.
Class of vehicles in that league, yeah.
We should break it. We should bring it. So a lot of operating guys felt that Matador shouldn't come. Right? That is, the purpose of the business is not to create a great manufacturing facility for a product. The purpose of the business is to give returns to the shareholders.
Yeah.
Right. And the purpose of setting up the plant there was also to get sales tax benefits. With the phased manufacturing program that we had, it would not have been possible to get that benefit in short time, because it would take its own time to do the local development. So the management then decided that we should go for, within the same facility, extending a couple of more bays, we should make Matador pickup vans. Okay, that is how, maybe you joined a bit later, that's how the thought that we do a product there, which is an existing product in Pune, and expand and bring it here. It sounded very, since we did actually do a fitting of Matador layouts into the Tempo Traveler layouts, you would have found, I'm sure it would have found some people who joined subsequently, very strange that you suddenly have a Matador finishing line at one place, in between Tempo Traveler lines, all that. Purpose that time, and purpose for that matter any time, should be, to give returns to the shareholders, to ensure that there's profitability, to ensure that there's a good utilization of it. So now, what I meant is that even though the decision was of one thing, over a period of time, because the purpose of the business is to have the, purpose is to give wealth creation over a long period of time, Matador had been brought in. This is one such example. I go to cement, which is another favorite business of mine, where I worked a long time. This is a Larsen & Toubro cement business. When I had joined around 89, it had only one plant, which was in Maharashtra near Nagpur. And subsequently, they added one more plant, which was in Chhattisgarh, near Raipur, right? So with these two plants, so that time the methodology of all our companies working was in terms of maximize your production, you maximize, you decide to sell near the factory. So the Maharashtra plant, Awarpur plant, would serve the markets in Maharashtra, Hyderabad, in Nagpur,
nearby area.
Nearby area. And the plants in Raipur would do for Bengal, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, maybe Delhi, something like. So broadly, the way it was looked at that time was that how to maximize the profits, or how to maximize the utilization, how to maximize your production in those plant-wise. It's a unit-wise maximization, right? So the whole company's MIS reporting focus would be on how do I maximize unit-based? How do I maximize Awarpur? How do I maximize in Raipur?
Raipur, yeah.
Of time, 3-4 years later, when the company expanded in a big way, so we have set up a plant in Gujarat, we have set up a plant in Andhra Pradesh, we set up many more plants, we have taken over some plants, a lot of new things have happened. Okay, so this has actually happened, over a period of 95 to 2000, and the multiple plants. The same market now can be addressed from different plants. For example, Mumbai market, we could address from the plants in Gujarat, the plants in Maharashtra, the plants in Andhra Pradesh, right? Now the methodology of working is not optimizing or maximizing based on the factory or the unit, but overall Larsen & Toubro contribution. So because the cost of manufacturing is different at each plant, transportation is different. So therefore the landed cost at the Mumbai market, for example, would be different from different places. The production capability is different. So the optimization was done at the business level, at the L&T level, not at the unit level, right? Now it became, why I'm saying this, is each unit head used to feel that, hey, come on, I have capacity. So therefore, if the market was less, it is not the nearness which makes a difference. It's in terms of what are the highest contribution, or which unit gives higher contribution. So there were times where some plants were not running. They were running a lower capacity also, but the unit head couldn't really crib about it, or unit head cannot complain about it, because in the end, what was important was to take optimal look of overall at the company level. Why it becomes important is, suppose I'm a unit manager, which I did. In fact, when I went to our Odisha plant in Jharsuguda, when I went to head that plant, the plant was running hardly at some 30% capacity utilization.
And you mentioned last time that it was not a profit-making plant.
Right. So now what happened was that there was a time when I went there, we were doing some 18,000 tons per month in a capacity of 60,000 tons per month, and we had people saying, "Sir, marketing se order nahi aaya, so therefore we are not able to execute." So because my own market, which is just 1 hour drive from my plant, which was Sambalpur, which is near to Jharsuguda, the cement coming from a distant plant called Raipur plant, it was better for the other company level. So because my cost of production in the plant was very high. Fortunately, we have used all the techniques then to reduce the cost in that unit. Therefore, in a matter of 3-4 months' time, we were able to actually get more than what even our capacity and do that. So the purpose, therefore, is that, in fact, even unions used to complain. What if this 1 hour from here and my cement is not getting sold? Cement from other plants are getting sold. But then once we optimize. So the big picture is that you have to optimize at the company level. And as a unit head, I would have said, what is going on? But that's what it is. And luckily for us, we were able to reduce the cost, and we were able to take that utilization, and we even did some expansions. And by the time I left that unit, after 2 years, from 17,000 per month, we reached 1 lakh tons per month. And that's largely because of cost reduction. And we were able to become at a company level, it was better for the company to sell from our unit. So here again, at a unit level, it's important that we don't look at my unit level optimization. We have to understand that it's at the company level.
Now, it is both way. It is optimized from the company level as well as from the unit level. So, the change
it has to be at the company level. It has to be at the company level. Units have to fall in line with that. Cost reduction, right? In that example. Very often, we come across this, regularly in terms of, when I also say long-term, sustainable wealth creation. But I think both examples that I gave were largely in terms of improving profitability at the company level and how do we optimize, right? Now, it's not only that. We have what's also called long-term. It's not sustaining for short-term. Long-term is important. For example, we had, let's say, an example of introducing a new model or introducing a new design, for example. Introducing new design, for example, or your technology. Yeah, seeing the future and then doing it now. An example which I have in mind is, in Odisha again, in a place called, Angul. You may have heard of the place, Angul, which is in Odisha, about 150 kilometers from Bhubaneswar. So one of our expansion plans and tying up places, fly ash, all that, for my cement plant in Jharsuguda. We walked into a factory in Angul. It is FCA, Food Corporation, this FCA.
Trading Corporation, STC. State Trading
No,
Corporation.
it is a fertilizer corporation of India.
Acha, okay. FCI.
Fertilizer, okay. So we were looking for a place there to set up a small batching plant there as part of business growth. And somebody in Angul advised us. Angul is just 150 kilometers from Bhubaneswar, so it's a good market for us. So we went there. So somebody has advised us that you can look at this Fertilizer Corporation of India premises. There's a plant next door. They may have place for you to. We are looking for a small place. So I and Mr. Kumar and Mr. Manas Panda was my finance head. All three of us have gone into that place. Now, as you enter, on the right side, there's a small, it's a colony type first. So there's a temple. As we enter further, there are houses. And we enter further, there's a school building. There was a stadium type of thing. We went further, then there was a factory. Whole of this place, one thing missing is people. So we went actually to the factory, and there were some 4 or 5 people just there. They're the administrator there, administration managers. So we asked them, okay, hey, what's it? What happened? I mean, to me, it looked like it's a big thing, it's a big plant. At one point of time, it must have been doing very well. So that guy said, yes, sir, this was one of the very well-run plants 10 years ago. But unfortunately, this management has not seen the technology changing. And I think they make some type of fertilizer, whatever it was. And therefore, these people did not see that the technology changing. Very soon, much less costlier, the cost of manufacturing would come much less in the future. They didn't upgrade their technology. With the result, despite government support, we just could not sustain. And over a period of time of 3-4 years, last 4 years, they sort of gave VRS for 400-500 people, and so many families came onto the road. And that guy who explained to us was almost in tears. So when I talk about big picture, apart from wealth creation, important thing is also sustainable in the long term. And very often, the operating heads miss out this long-term perspective. Yeah, everybody runs around in the current, do well this quarter, do well this year. But I think what is coming in the future has to be seen. That was a very bad scene. I think one of the bad days of my career, if you recall, this will be one of them, when that gentleman was actually, crying almost. So I guess at a higher level, at a business level, the 3 examples I elaborated, largely to make a point that shareholder wealth creation, and not at unit level, not possibly even at department level, business level, or including technology, what's going to come in future. Wealth creation for the stakeholders, which is sustainable. I think that has to keep guiding each and every one.
When you come to talk about stakeholders, even your employees are stakeholders, your customers are stakeholders, and your suppliers are stakeholders. So you have to keep in mind the interest of all. Like
all of them.
In this case, you have mentioned about this Odisha unit, fertilizer unit. The employees are on the road, so you have to take care of them also when taking a decision, right?
Yeah, correct. And in fact, to extend that a bit, it's not okay. That Odisha plant of Fertilizer Corporation of India, Angul, could be an extreme example.
Yeah,
but
we can learn from extreme examples only.
Training employees to the newer technologies is also important, isn't it? Like, for example, we have seen so much of automation going in many places, so much of new technology coming in many places now. And some of our employees, if they're not trained with what is happening the latest, you could both have a low productivity and also, poor operations. Things are changing so fast that, we are upgrading the technology, upgrading the knowledge of the people, training the people also becomes very, very important, So this being at a higher level, let me come to some examples of, at an operating.
You mentioned about Kinetic Honda. I just wanted to mention about that. Kinetic Honda unit was taken over by Mahindras, and they introduced their own vehicle, and it got sold because that time when they took over this company, Honda scooters had some problem, labor problem, so they could not make sufficient numbers, so they pitched in and they sold a lot of vehicles, lot of two-wheelers of their Mahindra brand. Then what happened when Honda came back to its original level of production? They again were thrown out of the market. So now what Mahindra is doing is not making vehicles under their brand name. They are doing some job work and they are making Java vehicles. Java, which was an old brand, which again came back to India. So now they are doing job work and making vehicles for Java, under the brand name of Java, and Java is selling. So they are only doing job work. So this is also one kind of thing when you have to take decision to shift your priorities in production, or from marketing company to become a purely manufacturing company making things for other brands.
Yes, I think so. I think so. What it also means is that an honest assessment of capabilities by them will be very important, right? So in terms of, well, what we can do, what we could not do, right? What is key for our business? What is taking us, how long would it sustain, right? In some, in some businesses which, fortunately in businesses like automobile, you have to anyway do once in 3 years, 2 years, a review of your products and how many are selling, how many are not selling. And the biggest example, I'm sure, is Nokia phones, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He's a classic example. Managing director, Mr. D. Shivakumar, he's a friend of mine. He was my classmate. Okay, Nokia's managing director at that point of time. So he was saying that it can change in no time. Their small decision of not going for smartphones or whatever it is in time. Made a huge difference, right? Made a huge difference. So nothing can be taken for granted, right? So therefore, so though that management and that manager who looks long term, right, would I think would help. Okay, coming to I think the operating manager level, like
individuals.
Individuals, I had myself a couple of examples. When I went first to that visa plant that I talked about, right? So now, it was not running well. It was doing, very less dispatches. So obviously my keenness was to move, improve the dispatches as quickly as possible. Obviously you want to make a name. Okay. So in the first couple of months, I try to push the dispatches up. For me, one of the raw materials which comes, one of the intermediate products which comes is from my Raipur plant. It's called clinker. Now it is in short supply. One, they had some issues. Second, that time getting wagons is very difficult. It was a shortage. So I had to get those materials in wagons. Right? So with that clinker short, but I was keen on dispatching. Right? So I dispatched and took the dispatches, 2 months time to 45,000, Collar Odaya, all that, naturally, and kept saying that we have done a great job and all. Well, that was a great job, but, I got a sort of a stinker from, the corporate. Okay. Very good, you're taken up with that, at least you proved that product can be done and all that. But you should have hung on. Because you ended up at least in that 45,000 increase, 20,000 increase dispatches. You have at least 5,000-7,000 have gone to not so profitable area. You pushed last minute, right? Because I pushed to Bengal, which is farther. Yeah. In a situation of shortage of materials, whatever resources you have, you should try to optimize on profit and not on
numbers alone. Numbers alone.
Not your munchi baat, I want to increase and I've done a great job, So, you tend to, I'm sure this we would see many in many companies. Typically a purchase guy would say, right, in cement division, when I was in supply chain, right, it would be like, purchase guy would come and say, see, I'm going to buy, there would be some castings, typically in there will be coal, which will be ground to a fine powder there. And coal mill had, some liners, which are castings actually, HRCS castings. And they're, my purchase guy would come and tell me that, I'm going to get from this party, which is rupees per kg wise, even the cheapest, right? I would like to get, because he would say that he would like to say, compared to last time, now I found a new source, I'm going to get. But what was important at a unit level or at this thing is that how much is the life that we could give, because today the life of these liners is 3 months of operation. Whether the other one will give 3-4 months or 2.5 months, it makes a huge difference, especially in a continuous process plant. Suppose you have to change those liners, the whole plant has to be stopped for 3-4 days. So there's also loss of production involved in that. So it's not mere rupees per kg, but it also means that, so you take overall cost and picture in terms of how do I get, or how much improvement in life I get. So a materials manager, typical materials manager would like to see rupees per kg. An informed materials manager will have to go beyond their, purchase and this thing and look at, what is the best in the overall context.
Overall context, yes.
Okay, so I think we had another case, for example, again, between manufacturing operations head versus marketing, right? In Jharsuguda, again, we used to get a complaint from our marketing that, the dealer, the stockist, he comes that, so many bags of cement have come, so many tons of cement has come, in that so many bags are damaged. Right, and marketing guy reports that bags are damaged, and damage means it's a loss, because in case of cement, bag is damaged, that's gone. And I would say I would put a task force, I'll watch it myself actually with all seriousness, how the bags are stacked in the wagons. And I was ensured, because there are specialists who actually advise, I myself personally ensured several times that it was all right. So I keep saying that, bhai, to hamara taraf se sab theek thaak. Either your distributor is bluffing or a marketing guy is bluffing. That's a typical, line one would take, and even I had taken. The marketing guy, by the end of the day, he has to write it off because it comes under him.
Yeah. The losses.
So he can know it's damaged. Okay. So we did actually once we sent across one guy, a common guy, we sent somebody along with the rakes on the road in a jeep. And that marketing guy was in my plant to check, and he also confirmed that everything is stacked properly as per plan. And we went there to the distributor, both he and me, it was the damage was there. Both of us have seen. But so we escorted somebody the rakes. What happened is somewhere in between, there was a shunting done, reversal done in one of the stations. And whenever that happens, typically it goes straight. But whenever that happens, my stacking pattern is getting disturbed. So once we both of us have agreed, then it was very easy to solve the problem. But as long as you take a position, again, what I meant is that big picture is together. When you take from your point of view, he kept saying, this guy doesn't listen to me. I can see the way. You even take photographs and send it to us. I would say, I take photographs and say, things are going very fine. End of the day, company was this. So very often in customer compliance or in design compliance or in manufacturing or vendors, I guess people have to take a slightly bigger of things. And bigger picture, I think life will be far better, because it will be, we will be wasting our time. And then it will become ego issues and all that. Yeah, we are all human beings, right? So we would not like to be told that, we're not like to be told that you haven't done it, that pinpointing, blame game.
Right. How it was done, that is the main thing. Who has done, instead of who has done, it is how it was done.
how it was
Oh,
done.
good God,
Okay.
yeah.
But first, basically to see that one of my bosses used to say, one Mr. Muralidharan, the competition is not inside the company. Competition is outside the company.
Company also.
So don't compete with your marketing manager. Both of you together compete with the competitor.
Okay. That's very important statement.
Yeah, very important statement. So Muralidharan, one of our plant heads in Gujarat plant, and he was also overall manufacturing head of cement. Okay, so he used to say that don't fight inside, compete outside. And again, another thing we had going back to again Tempo days, Bajaj Tempo when I joined in Pune had a very strong, suggestion scheme, and a lot of cost reduction initiatives were there. People give suggestions, and our managing director, Mr. H.K. Firoya at that time, used to have a meeting once in a month. It was convened by one Mr. Kale, who was the planning manager, and he used to chair the meeting himself along with the heads of development, design, and executive director development, works, and all. And since we were young and we were also enthusiastic, we used to get also gives lots of suggestions, and I used to get some lot of, some praises also. Right. So what happened was that one of them we worked was to find an alternate source for a araldite, which was used. It's a typically water-cooled engine that time. And in that water-cooled engine, you would have water jackets. So there were caps which were fixed with araldite. And the intention, I believe, is that in case the water turns steam, then those caps come off first and engine gets saved. Now we use araldite, right? And we came with a proposal to have an alternate pidilite product. And we even said that, went and got it tested in a few cases, and then accepted by the production manager too, one Mr. Mahinder Singh, and went to Mr. Firodia in that suggestion committee meeting. At the same, in the same meeting, I also had two more suggestions to discuss. And one was with respect to did some calculation on the chassis, and then went to say that it was over designed for a, that time Matador used to be, 3-tonner. And with all the calculations I could make out that, so I said these members from chassis you can remove because it still meets the purpose of, 3 tons. I mean, the payload must be 1.5 tons or something like that. Okay? Then I had another suggestion which was getting discussed in terms of, the reducing the consumption of tips in one of those machining SPM for cylinder block. So each three of them had a different backgrounds, and we did a lot of work thanks to some people, some managers who have guided us, including one Mr. Dalton and all that. Right. So now all three got into discussion there. The first and foremost which came was in terms of that, Sandvik had some special purpose cutters.
Cutters, yeah.
So 52 tips on that cutter. We did some calculation. We found that it was, it was unnecessary. So we actually have reduced and saw the trial instead of 52 have 26 and try. We thought it was good enough because it was a rough machining only. Then, Sandvik, we disputed with them their design and all that. This was done with the guidance of Mr. Alan Dalton, who was the cylinder block head that time. And we did take a trial, and they also came and agreed. Though each tip will now last, will have less life now, but since it's going to be 26 tips, overall, the cost was, So this is what we proposed to Mr. Firodia. The second one, as I mentioned, was the over design of the chassis. So I said I could remove these. Third was, of course, as I said, alternate source for our life. Now, the approach of Mr. Firodia was this, and he has been so kind to explain to me also. He rejected outright the suggestion of, Araldite and alternate. Okay, he accepted the suggestion of machining, and he said, go ahead and take an opinion with the maintenance people. You should not have any impact on the machine. Once they clear, I have no problem. Please go ahead. It's a great suggestion. And third one with respect to chassis design. That's when he first used, I think, fortunately, I have had bosses who explain in length. So he said, you have to look at big picture. The word big picture is from there. I love that. He said, now, you are saying that the chassis item, which you think you can remove, maybe you're right in the calculation. I have no objection to that. Actually, you can do that. But what you are doing is that you're assuming one fundamental thing which you are missing out completely, which is that my vehicle gets used only for 1.5 tons. Please remember, mine is a light commercial vehicle. Lots of my customers are villagers. They do take so many things. It's across the country. And you may not know, but go and check with marketing guys. Most people overload our vehicles. So don't go by the design weight, which is what it's a payload which is supposed to take. You should actually consider twice, because you're not going to go and tell a villager sitting in Madhya Pradesh, say that you should not load beyond this. So even though my design and my specification is for the payload is this much, but you should have a big idea of what the customer is doing. So therefore, don't touch this. So suggestion rejected. And keep in mind always, don't go only by the stated needs of the customer, express need of the customer. Go beyond that and see what it actually does. And then you have to do whatever you do. Yeah. So otherwise, you argue out that I have done my calculations are all right, but there could be a failure at the customer end. The other suggestion of Araldite, he again refused. He said engine and gearbox part of my vehicle.
I think this example you quoted last time also.
Right.
I remember.
So therefore, don't touch it, because not worth it. It's running fine, right? And the cost saving is not. So these 3 examples, what I'm trying to bring is there's something called big picture at a higher end. Each manager, each operating engineer, operating manager should, in my opinion, see that big picture, whether in supply chain, whether in manufacturing, operations, marketing, sales, anywhere. Then if you take that big picture, then most likely your decisions are likely to be right.
So thank you, Mr. Ramanna, for the third session of our discussion on the management traits. It was a very meaningful and detailed discussion by you, and I hope all the people have enjoyed listening to you. And I'm sure we'll have another opportunity of talking to you on our channel. And dear viewers, if you have not subscribed our channel, please do subscribe so that you get a notification of our next discussion. Thank you very much. And finally, again, 2 गज दूरी मास्क है जरूरी.